Hey guys, Alex here from TitanBearGaming.com, at TitanBearGaming on social media. Today I'm doing a Kickstarter exclusive for the campaign setting On the Shoulders of Heroes by Windmill Slam Games. Now this Kickstarter is a campaign setting that's designed for Dungeons & Dragons. When it's released it'll be tuned for both 5th edition and 3.5, but it's just as easily usable for Pathfinder as well. Now Windmill Slam Games self-describes this campaign setting as being something that's kind of Viking-esque in terms of its feel. It's based off of Germanic folklore as well as Japanese folklore, which is kind of fused together in an interesting way. It is a lower magic setting, which I think vibes very well with the 5th edition assumptions for how a campaign setting operates, but without being too low of a magical setting. I think that for the most part, this setting emphasizes the basic themes of savagery and wilderness kind of being the governing characteristics of the world at large. Now, Windmill Slam Games was nice enough to send me a sneak peek exclusive look at On the Shoulders of Heroes campaign setting, so I get to look at it and give you guys a little bit of a sneaky peek into what's inside this book. Now, my first impression of the book is that it is very well written. It's a very well written publication. The author very plainly has a knack for fantasy writing, which goes a long way for things like campaign settings, where so much of the believability and reader buy-in for it ultimately comes down to the flavor texts and the blurbs of adventure diaries written by heroes or peoples within the campaign environment so that you can actually believe that you're in some kind of fantastical world setting yourself. Now, the copy that I got from Windmill Slam Games weighs in at a little over 200 pages in this PDF, so it is a big publication. You do get a lot for your money for this, and it is illustrated all throughout. It is done in grayscale by a grayscale artist by the name of Owen Kerrigan. He's an Irish artist. I'll make sure to put his links to his Tumblr page and to his Facebook page down below so you can kind of get a sneak peek of what kind of other art he does. I've gone over and I've looked at his other publication pages. He's got a lot of really great stuff posted. I actually really like his style. And I think in this case, the grayscale does help to impart kind of a charming style to the world of On the Shoulders of Heroes. And I think it actually helps to communicate a lot about the general themes that you're going to be dealing with when you're playing in a game in this campaign setting. Owen Kerrigan describes himself as being something of a lover of trolls, and it very heavily comes out in his art styles. I like it a lot. I think it's a really fitting addition to this publication. Now, as a campaign setting, it does have all of the things that you would hope to see from a campaign setting, enough material so that you can actually sit down and start playing in this in a role-playing game. It's got the continent of Bellogue, which I think is the dominant continent inside the world of On the Shoulders of Heroes. I think that's pronounced correctly, Bellogue with a hard O. But it's got maps for that continent, all the different kingdoms and lands within it, the peoples, descriptions of the peoples. It's got a history timeline. It's got the conflicts. It's got what kind of major battles happened, religion, who are the major gods, what kind of interactions do all the gods have. It's got a lot of really great stuff from a thematic setting. It also adds a whole bunch of new rules elements for the players to sink their teeth into and for the dungeon master to sink their teeth into. We have new player races, which I think they do a really great job with introducing some new compelling player races to play with. We've got some new feats that are both racial feats as well as class feats. And we got new magic items, new house rules. There's all kinds of really great stuff. Now, Windmill Slam Games was nice enough to let me give a kind of a sneak peek as to the material that you'll be able to find here in this Kickstarted campaign setting. So I've picked my top 2 things that I want to focus on to give you here as an exclusive look as to what's inside this book. One of the player races that I really like their definition of here in On the Shoulders of Heroes is a new player race called the Gnoll. Yes, it's the same kind of creature as what you find for your typical D&D setting, but it's got a very different definition. The Gnoll in On the Shoulders of Heroes is defined as a dog-headed humanoid, just like it is for any other D&D campaign setting. But in On the Shoulders of Heroes, it does not have a proclivity towards evil nor good. It's kind of a neutral species. And this species has a very heavy cultural emphasis on being nomadic and spiritual. There's something of star finders and astrologers themselves. They believe very heavily in things like the zodiac signs and what star you're born under being a very important thing. And so they get kind of a wanderer mentality, and they're a little bit spacey and a little bit spooky and a little bit head in the clouds. They have kind of a gypsy feel to them, which I think is a really brilliant way to incorporate something that's otherwise remembered as the bloodthirsty gnolls from from the rest of D&D in a very different way. One of the things that really struck me as I was reading through their section is their myth that they believe in, that all gnolls believe in, about where gnolls came from, is that the first gnoll was born from dandelions that were underneath the light of the North Star. Tell me how cute is that? Isn't that great? I feel like that myth by itself communicates so much more about the gnoll species than any other lines of text possibly could. Dandelions are a sacred flower for them. They like to weave it into their clothing and into their armor and into their homes, and it's so cool, right? It's a great thing. Now, mechanically, Windmill Slam Games does include an interesting thing for the gnolls, using this kind of astrologer-style star sign thing, which is that based in the month that your gnoll was born in, gnolls they believe that you are predetermined towards some kind of personality characteristic or some kind of future based on effectively your zodiac sign, right? And there's a table in the book that discusses which sign you're born under and what this means for you. And from a crunch perspective, there's a great little flavor text for each one, but from a mechanics perspective, you'll get some kind of bonuses to using a set of tools, or to some kind of skill, or to some kind of very particular combat situation, or something that helps flavor your character, to help flavor your gnoll being differentiated from other gnolls. I think this is a very interesting way to customize a player's character that I'll probably bring back into my own games. Now, elsewhere in the campaign setting, we've got new languages, new rules for languages to help beef up the presence of languages in your game, so that it's not just, oh, do you have this language written on your sheet? Then yeah, you can understand them, or no, you can't. It's gobbledygook. It gives you a little bit more playability in terms of being able to communicate with somebody that doesn't speak the same language as you, but maybe that's got kind of a similar root. Got some really nice rules for that in there. There's house rules for things that the Windmill Slam Games people think needs to be changed from 3.5 or 5th edition, things that they think would be beneficial for play in their On the Shoulders of Heroes campaign setting, as well as other racial feats and class feats and stuff, but I'm not going to talk about that. The only other thing that I'm going to sneak peek on here is the magic items section. Windmill Slam Games does introduce a whole bunch of new magic items that you can use that range from the mundane to the artifact. They actually have a cool distinction between minor artifacts and major artifacts. One that I really like is the Crown of Lost Kings. This guy has a cool, juicy thematic statement about it being kind of an evil crown that some king put to some nefarious use, and it does neat things like imparting telepathy into the wearer. The wearer gets a bonus to charisma for whenever they're talking to people, I think intended to represent your telepathy seeping into the recipient's mind and making you come off in a more favorable tone, as well as getting things like castable spells, command spells, and charm spells, and whatnot. But the part that I like most about this Crown of Lost Kings is that it has a connection to a different magic item called the Headband of Dark Sight. Now, the Headband of Dark Sight is an interesting one. It also emanates kind of an evil aura, just like the Crown of Lost Kings. And the way that this headband operates is it imparts into the wearer dark sight. You get dark vision up to 60 feet or something like that, as well as being able to pierce through magical darkness, which is a big thing for 5th edition, right? It also makes you immune to illusions, so you get kind of a true sight effect happening to your character. But here's the fun part. In order to actually gain the benefits of any of these powers, you need to be permanently blind. The character, the individual, needs to be permanently blind for these effects to actually happen to them. Isn't that great? What's worse is there's another penalty that goes with this. It's an evil item, right? There has to be penalties for this. When you are wearing the Headband of Dark Sight, you are mentally subject to the commands of whoever is wearing the Crown of Lost Kings. The bearer of the crown can issue mental commands to you at will over the course of any given day, and you have to make a will save in order to resist taking those commands and acting at the person's behest. Now, I really like these items, and I wanted to draw your attention to them because I feel like they're actually a good representation of the level of thought and detail and attention to depth that goes into the rest of this campaign setting. I'm actually really impressed by the Windmill Slam Games guys for putting together such a well-written piece of campaign setting publication. Now, by the time this video goes up, I think there's about 12 days remaining on the Kickstarter, so time is of the essence. If you're interested in this guy, go take a look at the Kickstarter, see what the different levels are that you can back. There's a digital version of it, there's a print version of it, you can get the 5th edition tuning, the 3.5 edition tuning, there's a t-shirt that you can get, and I think some other tchotchkes that they've got too. Go check them out and help support this Kickstarter. I really like this document, and I think that you will too. So let me know what you think of this sneak peek. Leave me a comment down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can see when I'm doing other sneak peeks. Otherwise, as always, you can come talk to me over on social media at Titan Bear Gaming. I'd love to chat with you over on Twitter. Until next time I see you, have more fun, would you? It's good for you.